You have 800 Singapore dollars sitting in your account right now, every single month, and you are not sure what to do with it. Maybe you are putting it into a savings account. Maybe it is just sitting there, slowly being eaten by inflation. Maybe, and this is the one that actually hurts, maybe it is disappearing into grab rides, overpriced coffee at Orchard Road, and online shopping you barely remember clicking. Here is the thing nobody in Singapore tells you directly. That $800 is not just $800. It is the exact number that separates the Singaporeans who retire with options from the ones who retire with anxiety. And the gap between those two futures is not luck, not family money, not a lucky property purchase. It is one decision made early, automated, and never interrupted. Today I am going to show you the real numbers. What 800 Singapore dollars a month actually becomes at 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years, running through the Singapore system. Not vague charts, not motivational fluff, real math, Singapore rules, 2026 figures. And by the end of this, you will understand something that most working Singaporeans in their 30s figure out far too late. Let me start with something uncomfortable, because the numbers from the Ministry of Manpower tell a story most people would rather not hear. The median gross monthly income for a full-time employed Singapore resident in 2025 was 5,775 Singapore dollars, including employer CPF. That sounds reasonable. That sounds like enough to build something. But here is what actually happens. You take home roughly $4,000 after CPF deductions and taxes. Your HDB mortgage or rent takes $1,500 to $2,000. Transport, groceries, utilities, the occasional hawker meal upgrade, another $1,200. And suddenly your $800 is the only thing left standing between the version of you who builds wealth and the version of you who just survives until the next payday. The question is not whether you can find $800. In Singapore, at a median income, you almost certainly can. The question is what you do with it when you find it. Most Singaporeans do nothing. And that choice, the absence of a decision, is itself a very expensive decision. Before we get into the numbers, you need to understand the engine that makes all of this work. Compound growth. It is not magic, it is mathematics. But it behaves like magic because the numbers do not move in a straight line. They curve. And the longer you stay invested, the steeper that curve becomes. Here is what that means in Singapore's actual investment landscape in 2026. The CPF special account earns a government-guaranteed 4% per annum, with the floor extended until 31st of December 2026. Not an estimate, not a market-dependent projection, a guarantee backed by the Singapore government. The SPDR, Straits Times Index ETF, ticker ES-FREE, the most widely held passive fund in Singapore, has delivered an average annual return of approximately 8.1% since its launch in 2002, including dividend reinvestment. Over the past 10 years specifically, the total return through dividend reinvestment has been 10.07% annually. Its dividend yield in 2026 sits at around 3.3 to 3.5%, and the total expense ratio is just 0.3% per year. When I run the numbers today, I am going to use 7% as a realistic, conservative blended return. That is below the STI ETF's historical average. It accounts for fees, for bad years, and for the fact that nobody perfectly times their monthly investments. 7% is a number you can defend, and it is still enough to completely transform your financial life. Let us run it. 800 Singapore dollars a month, every month, earning 7% per year. After 10 years, you have put in 96,000 Singapore dollars of your own money. Your balance is sitting at approximately $131,000. Most people see that and feel underwhelmed. 130,000 is not retirement money. It is a decent emergency fund, maybe a down payment contribution, but it does not feel life-changing. And they are right. 10 years is just the warm-up. The real shift happens after this. Fast forward to 20 years. Same $800 a month. Same 7%. You have now contributed $192,000 of your own money, but your balance has grown to approximately $409,000. Think about that for a moment. You put in $192,000. The compounding added another $217,000 on top. More than half your balance was built by returns, not by your contributions. This is the level most Singaporeans never reach, because somewhere between year 4 and year 7, life arrives. A BTO flat launches in a good location. A car loan that felt manageable suddenly does not. A wedding, a renovation, a retrenchment, a baby, and the $800 quietly stops moving. The investments pause, and every month they stay paused, the curve flattens. Here is the brutal truth about that pause. If you contribute $800 a month for 10 years and then stop entirely, after 20 years you have around $260,000. But if you contribute for all 20 years continuously, you have $409,000. That difference, $150,000, is the cost of a 10-year pause. That is what life events actually cost you when you let them break the compounding. Now here is where it gets serious. 30 years. $800 a month, 7%, 30 years. Your contributions total 288,000 Singapore dollars. Your balance is approximately $972,000. You are within striking distance of 1 million. From $800 a month, a number that most Singaporeans in their late 20s and 30s are technically capable of saving right now, today. And if the return runs closer to 8%, which is still well below the STI ETF's historical 10-year annualized return, that same $800 a month becomes $1,146,000. Over $1 million Singapore dollars from a decision you could make this week and automate in an afternoon. Here is the detail that most videos skip entirely. Look at what happens in the final decade. From year 20 to year 30, your balance roughly doubles, from approximately $400,000 to nearly $1 million, even though you are contributing the same $800 you always have. The last 10 years of a 30-year investment journey produce more wealth than the first 20 combined. That is not an exaggeration. That is how compound growth works at the steep part of the curve. And that steep part? It is invisible on social media. It does not show up in a highlights reel. It only exists for the people who refuse to stop. Let me make this real. 800 Singapore dollars a month is $26.67 a day. That is 5 hawker meals at a good stall in Tampines. That is 1 grab ride to the airport with surge pricing. That is 2 cups of coffee at a cafe on Keong Saik Road. That is a single Uniqlo purchase and a bubble tea you barely remembered ordering. Most Singaporeans are not broke. They are unfocused. The money is there. It is leaving the account every week. The only question is whether it leaves toward the version of you that retires at 62 with options or towards someone else's quarterly earnings report. Now let us talk about where exactly to put this $800. Because in Singapore, the strategy matters almost as much as the consistency. You have 3 main channels available to you right now. Each one is legal, each one is efficient, and each one serves a different purpose in your financial architecture. The first channel is CPF top-ups under the Retirement Sum Topping Up Scheme, also known as RSTU. In 2026, if you make a voluntary cash top-up to your own CPF special account, you earn a government-guaranteed 4% per annum on that money, with 0 market risk. More importantly, every dollar you top up reduces your taxable income, dollar for dollar, up to a maximum of 8,000 Singapore dollars per year in tax relief. That is $8,000 straight off your chargeable income. For someone earning $6,000 a month with a tax rate of 7%, that is $560 back in your pocket at tax season, for money you were planning to save anyway. The top-up ceiling is the full retirement sum, $220,400 in 2026 for those turning 55 this year. That sum, when converted into CPF Life at 65, delivers approximately 1,780 Singapore dollars per month for the rest of your life. Guaranteed. For life. Regardless of how long you live. If you want the maximum payout, up to $3,440 a month for life, you need to hit the enhanced retirement sum of $440,800. That is the ceiling you are building toward. This channel is your foundation. Risk-free, tax-advantaged, government-guaranteed. The Singaporean equivalent of compulsory retirement savings in Australia's superannuation system, except here you have to consciously choose to max it out. The second channel is low-cost ETFs through a brokerage account or through the CPF investment scheme. The SPDR Straits Times Index ETF, ES3, is the most accessible starting point. It charges just 0.3% in annual fees, pays dividends twice a year, averaging around 3.3 to 3.5%, and is available through virtually every brokerage in Singapore, including Saif, Tiger, and Mumu. Through the CPF investment scheme, you can even invest your ordinary account savings above the first $20,000 into ES3, potentially beating the OA's 2.5% floor while keeping your money inside the CPF universe. For those who want exposure beyond Singapore, which is worth considering because the STI is 30 companies, not the world, global ETFs like VWRA on the London Stock Exchange or CSPX tracking the S&P 500 are accessible through your SRS account and cash brokerage. The cost is similarly minimal. The diversification is dramatically wider. This channel gives you liquidity. Unlike CPF, you can access it before age 65 if needed, which matters for anyone pursuing financial independence before the official retirement age of 64. The third channel is the Supplementary Retirement Scheme, or SRS. SRS is one of the most underused tools in Singapore's financial toolkit. Open an account at DBS, OCBC, or UOB, contribute up to 15,300 Singapore dollars per year, and that contribution reduces your taxable income immediately. Like the RSTU top-up, it is a dollar-for-dollar tax reduction. Unlike CPF, the money inside SRS is yours to invest in stocks, ETFs, unit trusts, bonds, and all investment growth is completely tax-free until you withdraw. At the statutory retirement age, 63 for those who open their accounts before the 1st of July 2026, 64 for anyone opening now, you can withdraw your SRS savings over 10 years and only 50% of each withdrawal is taxable. For someone with 200,000 in SRS withdrawing 20,000 a year, half, 10,000, is taxable. On $10,000 of income, you pay essentially nothing in Singapore's progressive tax system because the first 20,000 of chargeable income is taxed at zero. The combined tax play here is significant. RSTU tops up CPF-SA and saves you up to 8,000 in tax relief per year. SRS saves you up to 15,300 per year in additional tax relief. Used together, a Singaporean earning $80,000 annually can reduce their chargeable income by up to $23,300, legally, year after year. The best strategy for most Singaporeans is not one channel. It is a deliberate split across all three. Max the RSTU first for the guaranteed 4% plus tax relief. Then build the SRS to invest in globally diversified ETFs for tax-deferred, higher return growth. And use any remaining cash for a direct brokerage account where STI ETFs or global funds give you flexibility and liquidity. The split depends on your age, your tax bracket, and how soon you want options. But the principle is the same across all of them. Automate. Set the transfer the day after salary credit, the same way CPF contributions are automatically deducted. Because the only investment strategy that actually works is the one that does not require you to remember to do it every month. Here is the part nobody wants to hear, because it is about the psychology, not the maths. The reason most Singaporeans never build meaningful wealth outside of their HDB flat is not that they do not earn enough. The median income in Singapore is $5,775 a month. That is more than enough to find $800 of investable capital. The reason is that they treat investing as a decision they have to make every single month. And every month, something else feels more urgent. The renovation quote that just came in. The family holiday to Japan that everyone has been excited about. The promotion that did not come through this year, so maybe next year will be different. The new iPhone. The new condo with the better view. So the $800 never moves. And 10 years later, they have a beautiful flat, a slightly newer car, and an investment portfolio worth approximately zero. Meanwhile, the person who automated it once, 10 years ago, on a random Tuesday in August, is sitting on $400,000, wondering why everyone around them is still stressed about the cost of living. Let us talk about what happens when markets crash, because they will. The STI dropped almost 30% in 2020. It fell again with global turbulence in 2022. There will be a next time, and the next time after that. Here is what the data shows, consistently, across every major market correction in Singapore's history. The investors who kept contributing during downturns ended up wealthier than the investors who paused and waited for things to feel safer. Because here is the mathematics of a market crash if you are in the accumulation phase of your life. When the STI falls 20%, your $800 buys roughly 20% more units of the ETF than it did the month before. You are being handed a discount on your future. The same way the supermarket putting chicken rice on sale means you buy more chicken rice, a market correction means you are buying more ownership of DBS, OCBC, UOB, Singtel, and Capitaland at a lower price per unit. The investors who panicked and sold in March of 2020 paid full price again in October when the market had already recovered. The investors who kept their $800 monthly transfer running are now looking at returns they would not trade for anything. That composure, the ability to keep sending the money even when the news is terrifying, is worth more in Singapore than any hot stock tip, any leverage play, any timing strategy you will ever hear at a networking event. Here's the question you actually need to answer today. Where is your $800 going right now? Not theoretically, not when things settle down. Right now, this month. Can you name exactly where it went? If you cannot, and most people cannot, that is not a knowledge problem. You know you should be investing. Every Singaporean with a CPF account has received the brochures. The problem is the absence of a system. The system is simple. Decide your $800. Decide which channel or combination of channels matches your age and goals. Set the transfer for the first of every month or the day after your salary lands. And then do not touch it. That is not the beginning of a complicated financial journey. That is the whole journey, repeated for 20 or 30 years, with consistency that most people underestimate and most wealthy people quietly credit as the actual source of their financial independence. Singapore gives you 4% guaranteed through CPF. It gives you a tax-free growth environment through SRS. It gives you access to world-class low-cost ETFs through your brokerage. It gives you one of the most sophisticated voluntary retirement infrastructure systems in the world. The only question is whether you are going to use it. The Singaporean who starts this at 28 and keeps going until 62 is not going to be rich because of one brilliant investment. They are going to be rich because they chose, on an ordinary rents day, to automate $800. And then they forgot about it. The comfortable retirement, the one where you wake up at 65 and the CPF life payout covers your bills, the SRS withdrawals cover your travel, and the brokerage account is a bonus rather than a lifeline, that retirement is built on ordinary months. Months exactly like this one. Decide now. Automate it tonight. And do not interrupt the compounding. If this video helped you think differently about your money, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. See you in the next one.